The story begins with a man named Garg, who brought his pregnant wife to the hospital during a storm. She had just been struck by lightning, but unfortunately, the doctor could not save his wife. When he was told this news, Garg immediately asked about her child. She was told that her son was born prematurely and that he was born with a disease called albinism. When Garg went to see her son, she was shocked. When he went to the maternity ward, he saw that his son had no hair on his body and that his whole body was completely white. Seeing this, he immediately started crying, and he clearly refused to adopt this child. That child grew up with his grandfather, but one day, suddenly, his grandfather also died. Afterward, the police reached that house to investigate the matter, where they came to know that a young boy was present in the basement of that house. This is why Sharif Sej called Jesse, the director of the city's orphanage. The police believed that the boy, named Jeremy, was being held in the basement so that people could not see him because he looked very different. When Jeremy met the police, he explained that his grandfather was making coffee when suddenly, he fell on the ground and died after some time. Jeremy also told Jesse that he lived in the basement to avoid sunlight because it hurt his eyes. Despite never going to school, Jeremy had accumulated a lot of knowledge by reading thousands of books. By now, she had understood that this was no ordinary boy, and that is why she decided to take Jeremy with her to the orphanage. As soon as Jeremy reached his new home, he immediately caught everyone's attention, and his completely white face became very noticeable. Everyone made fun of him because of his body. The next day, during lunchtime, he was sitting alone and eating food when Johnny and his friends started to tease Jeremy. They wanted Jeremy to insert a spoon in his nose, but instead of listening to Johnny, Jeremy picked up a spoon and started rubbing his thumb on it. Within a few seconds, all the iron objects around him started sticking to the spoon. Seeing this, all the people present there were shocked, and they now understood that Jeremy was truly very different. That day, Jesse took him to a doctor who, after examining him thoroughly, explained that despite not having a single hair on his body, Jeremy was completely healthy. In a few days, Jeremy would get special lenses, after which he would be able to walk comfortably in the sun without glasses. Jeremy was much smarter than the other children, so Jesse decided to send him to a special school, where during one class, the teacher used a high-voltage source to teach the children about electricity. As soon as Jeremy started shivering, Lindsay realized that something was wrong with him. Before she could do anything, Jeremy attracted all the electricity towards himself, due to which his body started flying in the air. The teacher decided to destroy the source. Seeing Jeremy unconscious, Teacher Donald tried hard to wake him up, but as soon as Donald touched Jeremy, all the hair on his hands stood up. After this, he immediately took Jeremy to the hospital, where he was treated well. Even after investigation, the doctors were not ready to believe that he should be given any kind of electric shock. After hearing this, Donald became more interested in Jeremy because, according to science, Jeremy should not have been alive. It was impossible for him not to get harmed after such a big electric shock. Donald decided to talk to Jeremy, but while Donald was talking to the police, Jeremy quietly ran away from the hospital and went to his old house. He started moving towards Jeremy, and on the way, he met Lindsay. As soon as Lindsay's dog, Jack, saw Jeremy, he started barking at him, but Jeremy was not scared of dogs at all. Meanwhile, while talking to Jeremy, Lindsay realized that all her neighbors were staring at him, and then Jeremy told them that he can actually hear and feel people's thoughts and memories. But then Jeremy realized that he told Lindsay too much, and so he quietly left from there. And when he was crossing the railway tracks, Sharif caught hold of him and asked him to go back to the hospital, upon which he refused. Jeremy told her that he ran away from the hospital because he had spent the worst days of his life in the hospital when his father had abandoned him. The next day, she took Jeremy to a specialist to get his IQ tested, where, upon seeing Jeremy, Aaron asked him some questions because he did not believe Jesse's words that all Jeremy's knowledge was only from books and he never went out of his house and also never watched TV. Because in his presence, all the electrical devices stopped working. After the test, Donald thinks Jeremy is a genius, but then Aaron tells him that they can't measure Jeremy's IQ because his score is actually so low that he can't do anything. It was so big that it was almost impossible to measure it, and according to them, Jeremy was the smartest person. After which Jesse told him that they wanted to help him, but then Jeremy asked for permission to go back home. But Jesse told him that because of him, grandfather's house is about to be sold. It was mortgaged to the bank, and now there is no one to pay the installment. On hearing this, Jeremy became very sad, and then suddenly the lights in the room started to glow, and this continued until the lights went out, after which, Jeremy caught the school bus and went back to the orphanage. At the end of the week, the children were taken for camping on the holiday. He was taken to the place where, like always, Jeremy was sitting quietly alone in a corner. Seeing him alone, Sharif went to talk to him, after which he immediately understood that this poor boy is not happy here. That night, The sky was overcast with clouds. There was a possibility of rain in a short while, on which Jeremy said that during the rain, he always feels as if he is a part of it. He can feel every drop of rain very well, and it feels as if there is lightning coming towards him. He also told that his grandmother always used to say that God creates lightning, but till date, he has not been able to understand why God took away his mother that night. On which Sharif asked him how did he know that his mother died due to lightning, to which Jeremy told him that he remembers things even before he was born. The next morning, Jeremy woke up very early and went to the jungle to experience nature for the first time, where many lizards immediately came to him, and one of them sat on his hand. But as soon as Johnny and Mitch came there, all the animals ran away. They immediately ran away from there. Actually, both of them were hunting in the forest, but when they saw unarmed and weak Jeremy, Johnny immediately pointed a gun at him, after which Mitch tried a lot to stop his friend, but Johnny was not able to stop. He was not ready, but just as he was about to fire the shot, they heard another gunshot from nearby, after which they all immediately ran in that direction, where they saw that Deputy Harley had just killed a deer. The poor deer was taking its last breaths. As soon as Jeremy looked into the eyes of the deer, he could feel the pain of the helpless animal. Then Harley tried to take the deer away from him, but Jeremy held her hand and saved the deer. All the pain was transferred to Harley, after which Harley lay down on the ground and started screaming. Seeing this, Johnny now had a reason to shoot Jeremy, and he immediately aimed his gun at Jeremy, but then at the last moment, Mitch saved Jeremy by turning the gun towards the sky. Jeremy, frightened by the sudden sound of the bullet, ran away. He also left Harley. After this, Jeremy was taken to the principal's office, where he was asked why Harley was taken to the hospital due to a heart attack, to which Jeremy said that Harley did not realize what he had done to that innocent deer. He has just made Harley feel the pain of that deer, but Sharif did not believe this, and that is why he went out, leaving Jesse alone in the room with Jeremy, after which Jeremy told him. He told that he does not want to stay there because none of the people present there have any humanity in them, and he can feel all this very well. And he also told that I know that you are just pretending to be my friend because real friends don't hold another against their will like this. And as soon as Jeremy got angry, all the mirrors in the room broke. When Sharif reached home, he met Dr. Duane, who had come there to check up his sick wife, and after the checkup he told Sharif that he had no answer as to how Emma was alive, because according to her condition she should have died months ago, and that is why Duane advised to admit her to the hospital as soon as possible. But the sheriff was not ready for this because he felt that if Emma was conscious then she would have liked to spend her last days at home. That night when Jeremy was sitting alone in the canteen, Donald came to meet him and tried to make Jeremy understand that he was different from the rest of the people because ever since he had touched Jeremy, Donald had never touched him. He had a different vigor since then, as if he was 18 again, and so he asked Jeremy if he had ever read about Albert Einstein's afterlife theory, according to which energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change its form, and if a person uses his brain 100%, then that energy that he would transform into a human form and would not need a body at all. And now Donald believed that because of the accident that happened with Jeremy's mother, Jeremy's brain had reached a level that no other human being had been able to reach till date. Now Donald started fearing for Jeremy because he had got all the knowledge from books only, but he did not know and understand what wrong things humans can do, and at the same time the scientist believed that reaching Jeremy's level is not easy. It will take thousands of years for humans to adapt to this world, and that is why Donald wanted to help him to adapt to this world. After which he shook hands with Jeremy, and once again all the hair on his body stood up, and Jeremy also started to grow hair for the first time. He was touching a person because till now everyone was scared of touching him. After a few days, the sheriff deputy went to meet Harley at his home, where he saw that Harley had removed all his weapons, and when the sheriff asked him about this, when Harley was asked, she told that the day she hunted a deer, Jeremy held her hand and made her feel the pain of the deer, after which his whole body started trembling, and this was the most frightening and painful experience of his life. He felt as if he was dying, and after that feeling, he could not even think of killing anyone. After listening to this, the sheriff decided to meet Jeremy, after which he took permission from Jesse and took Jeremy to his house with the hope that he could help his wife. After reaching the sheriff's house, Jeremy put his hand on Jeremy's head so that he was able to understand what was going on in her mind, after which she told Sharif that his wife cannot leave her body until she is sure that her son and husband will be able to live peacefully after her departure. Actually, Sharif, he had not spoken to his son for many years, and according to him only his family members knew this thing, but when Jeremy started telling another thing about his son Steve's childhood, Sharif became convinced that Jeremy was really Steve. He is able to talk to his wife, and then Emma opens her eyes for a few last moments, after which she leaves Sharif forever. She left this world saying goodbye, and as soon as this news reached Steve, he immediately came back to his home and hugged his father after so many years. Well, after a few days, Lindsay called Jeremy to meet her in the park, and he on this occasion, Lisa wanted to know from Jeremy that how people are from inside, on which Jeremy told that most of the people are not connected to the world around them. But Lisa did not understand this. On this, Jeremy explained to her that there is no mistake. In fact, the human mind can think only up to a limit, and due to this people were not able to understand that every living thing in this world is connected in some way or the other. And to prove this thing, he holds Lindsay's hand and they are able to read each other's minds. And during this time, Lindsay learns that Jeremy's father abandoned him the day he was born, and she is devastated by this knowledge. Knowing each other fully, they came very close, and then suddenly Lindsay's father saw them and started shouting at Jeremy. Seeing this, Jeremy immediately got scared. Lindsay reaches there to save her, but before leaving, Lindsay's father threatens Jeremy to stay away from his daughter. After facing so much, Jeremy decides to leave that city, but before leaving, he goes to the basketball court one last time. He went to his house where he again encountered Johnny and his friends. When he touched Johnny, he learned about a very painful memory of Johnny. In fact, Johnny had been beaten a lot by his stepfather in his childhood, and because of this, he used to be a fool. As a result, he grew up to be an angry boy. But when Jeremy told him about the incident, Johnny angrily stripped him of his clothes and threw him in the dirty water. And when Jeremy stood back up, all the iron objects suddenly started coming towards him. She started pulling, and then suddenly lightning struck him, due to which all the people got scared. Due to the sudden lightning falling on the ground, all the people fell down. Even after everyone got up, when Johnny was still lying on the ground, everyone saw him and started screaming. Carr got a little worried. Johnny's heart had stopped beating, but Jeremy used his body to give Johnny some electric shocks, which brought him back to consciousness. After this, Jeremy came back to his old house where first of all he went to the basement. After some time, Jessie also reached there, and she saw that all the books in the basement were missing, and Jeremy was sitting there quietly. Then Jessie told him that when she first saw him, she immediately knew he was no ordinary kid and that she would help Jeremy find a good place for him to live if he trusted her. Donald soon arrives there, and as he walks towards the car, he encounters Harley and Sharif, who have come to pick up Jeremy. When he asks Jessie and Donald what they are going to do with Jeremy, so he immediately understood that both of them did not want to send him back to the orphanage. And to help them, the sheriff asked Harley to go back, but Harley was not ready to do this. Message to the headquarters. He took out the walkie-talkie, but Sharif snatched the radio from him and threw it in the air, after which, Jeremy said goodbye to everyone and started running fast towards the fields. And then suddenly, the lightning struck Jeremy directly. Despite this, he kept running and disappeared in no time. Seeing all this, the four understood that Jeremy had left them and gone to a better place. Now his mind had developed so much that he did not need a body to live in this world. If you liked the video, then like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.